Hi everyone, welcome to your first week here at for our ecology course, Bio 315. So I'm just going to give you an overview of what you need to accomplish this week in this course. So this is your Brightspace page, and do go ahead and start at the Start Here folder. In the Start Here folder, make sure you take a look at the syllabus so that you understand what things, when things are due, what things apply, and so forth. After that, I highly suggest that you take a look at the assignment information folder. So in the assignment information folder, we have our final project. So this final project is going to be divided into 3 milestones. So this first milestone will be due in week 2. The second milestone is due in week 4, and the third milestone is due in week 6. So each of these contain parts of your final project. So milestone 1, for example, covers the introduction and methods section of your final project, and then so forth. So I highly suggest that you take a look at the final project guidelines and rubric just to get an idea of what you will be working on throughout the term. We will get into milestone 1 in week 2. Okay. Another thing that you'll want to look at is the undergraduate discussion rubric. So you should be familiar with this already in other courses, but in this course we do follow this the same. We have divided into 4 sections for your grade. So each week you will have a discussion board that's worth 30 points. So most of the point value goes into the initial post as well as your peer response posts. Okay, and then you will also have about 10% of your grade for timeliness and then 10% for writing mechanics. So let's take a look at our first module. So we are in module 1 this week, and so this module is going to introduce you to ecology as well as the scientific method. So it's always a good idea to start with the module introduction. So by the end of this week, you will have accomplished these learning objectives. So you should be able to explain how the terms organism, population, community, ecosystem, and biosphere relate to one another. Use and interpret different graphical methods of data presentation. Explain why legitimate research should address uncertainty. Evaluate ways that scientists can present their results so they will not be misunderstood in the popular press. And then we'll start getting into climate change, especially next week. So this will be, we'll look at some articles based around climate change and analyze whether if they have scientific merit or not. Okay. So we do have an introduction to the module overview. So this you can go ahead and read on your own, and then we have some additional resources. Okay, so we have a video. So this video is pretty short, but it just talks about global warming. And then we have 3 articles that you're going to be reading. So the first article these are pretty short, so it's easy to get through. So climate change, the new climate report is sobering but strangely hopeful, and then climate impacts on ecosystems. So these 3 articles and the video are kind of the required reading for this week, in addition to chapter 1 of your textbook. So hopefully by now you've had a chance to take a look at the textbook. So chapter 1 is a pretty short chapter going through the scientific method and so forth. And then finally, we want you to understand APA style. So in science, we always use APA format with our in-text citations as well as our reference list. And I'm going to be looking at your use of in-text citations and your reference list in your discussion board post this week. So if you're not familiar with how to cite things in APA style, take a look at the Shapiro Library resource. Okay. So let's start us out with our discussion board. So just like any other class you've taken, we have an initial post that's due Thursday midnight. In this case, it's Thursday midnight Eastern time. And you'll choose 2 initial posts from other students and respond to those posts. Those 2 peer posts are due on Sunday midnight. So again, just like probably every other course you've taken, you're going to begin your discussion post with a little bit about yourself. Okay, so in particular, I'm looking for what you like to be called. Okay, so if that's different from the name that is in my grade book. And then also where you're located in this world. So some of us are overseas right now. Some of us are, in this country, United States. So I'd like to just know where you are located, what state you are, maybe what city you're located in. And then a little bit about yourself. So are you an environmental science major? If so, what's your concentration? If not, what type of major are you going for, and what brings you to taking this ecology course? And then finally, just some, personal interests that you have. So, why do you, what gets you up in the morning? What type of hobbies do you do? That kind of thing. Okay, and anything else you'd like to share. So once you've completed that task, then you're going to be finding an article from Science Daily. So when you click into the Science Daily articles, you'll first see top science news. You can choose something like that if that looks interesting to you, but I would focus, if you can, on something that's more ecology based. So, for example, right here, study uncovers major hidden human-driven bird extinctions. That sounds ecology based, so this would be a good choice. Whereas astronomers detect seismic ripples in ancient galactic disk, that's not really ecology based. Might be interesting though, but maybe not for this particular course. So you can choose, any of the top science news, or you can even go into the search. Okay, so you can go into environment and search something that might be a topic that is interesting to you. Plants and animals, biology, things like that. My only real criteria when you're choosing something is that it's been posted within the last year. So we're looking at current events, so they should be current within the last year. So aim for something that was published in 2023 or 2024. Okay. So once you have chosen your article, always a good idea to make sure nobody else has posted that article already. Okay, so think about which article you're going to do, and then take a look at it and read it a couple times through. Okay, so we have like a little blurb at the top of what the summary is, and then read it a couple times through. Once you've read it a couple times through, then you're going to go back to the discussion board and you're going to describe the experiment that was conducted, what were the hypotheses that were tested, the methods used, and the major results found. Okay, so these are basically just kind of understanding what the article talked about and how it applies to the scientific method. Finally, you're going to discuss if the results surprised you or if they were in line with what you knew before you read the article. So things like, did something like this article where we have, study uncovers major hidden human-driven bird extinctions. Well, personally, I knew ahead of time that, birds have been going extinct at quite a rapid rate within the last century because of basically global climate change as well as habitat loss and things like that. But, I maybe didn't realize that, 12% have died out. That's pretty significant within our modern human history. So, so that might be a little bit more surprising. When you're writing the discussion board, you will have at least 2 paragraphs. Okay, so in addition to your little introduction about yourself. So aim for about 2 paragraphs. And when you're writing, you will be citing your sources within the actual text. Okay, so you'll need to, if you're using something like a statistics, 12% of bird species have died out. When you're writing it, you're not quoting, but you might use that statistic that, based on the reading of this article, you learned that, 12% of bird species have died out within, our last couple hundred years. So with that, I need to cite where I got that information from. That didn't come from my brain, it came from this article. So you do need to include an in-text citation at the end of the sentence that you're using that statistic or information from. So how to do an in-text citation, you're going to basically, see if there's any in here. There's probably not any in here, but yeah, I don't see any. But basically it would go at the end of the sentence before the punctuation mark, and it'll be the author, comma, year. Okay, so if I look down here, I'm going to switch this to APA format. Here's the author. The author is UK Center for Ecology and Hydrology. So that's the author of this. So to cite it, I'm going to do, in parentheses at the end of the sentence, UK Center for Ecology and Hydrology, and then the year, so 2023. Okay, so that would go right before the punctuation mark at the end of the sentence. In addition to your in-text citations, you're going to include a reference list of all of the references you used. So most likely you're only going to use one reference for this article. So it would be this reference right here. And look, it's already in APA format. Okay, so you would basically just write this at the end of your initial discussion post. Make sure you change the date. If you're doing this later, it might be January 8th or whatever. Okay, so we do want it in APA format. So when I go to read your initial post, I will be looking for your introduction of yourself, as well as the summary of the experiment, including the hypotheses, the methods, and the major results found, with in-text citations placed in there, and no quotes. So everything is summarized in your own words. So you're paraphrasing things in your own words. In science, we really do not quote things. It's just not something that we do in a major article or journal articles. If you get into those later on, starting next week, you'll notice that those journal articles, those academic journals, there's no quotations in there. Okay, but you'll see a lot of in-text citations. So I want you to practice the same thing. So you'll read the article very carefully, and you're going to paraphrase it in your own words. So no quotations are allowed. Once you are ready to post, then you're going to go ahead and post it for the topic or the subject line. Instead of doing 1-1 discussion in scientific research, I highly suggest that you just summarize the title of your article that you chose. So for me, if I do this one, I might just use the title bird extinctions, uncovering major hidden human-driven bird extinctions, or something like that as my title, or just bird extinctions. And then start writing my initial post. Okay, so this first post is due by Thursday, midnight Eastern Standard Time. So do make sure that you get the time right. If you're not in the Eastern, on the East Coast, then you need to adjust that. So Pacific Time, you're going to need to post it by midnight Eastern Standard Time. So that's 3 hours earlier. Okay. Then actually, let me go back to the discussion board post. So once you have posted your initial discussion board post, by Sunday midnight, you're going to be posting 2 responses to your peers. So once we have a bunch of threads, right now I'm doing this before the course has even started here, so there's no threads to respond to. But once you look at a couple of threads, take a look and find 2 students that nobody has responded to. Okay, so it's always a good idea to choose 2 students that nobody's responded to yet. Or if there's already been 2 responses to that post, don't respond to another. Don't choose somebody else. So we want to make sure that everybody's getting some peer responses to their article. When you read the student, your peer's initial post, what I'd like you to do is think about something that's particularly interesting about that post. And you're going to want to include some of your own research. So some tips on how to write good response posts include, perhaps what you found surprising about that student's summary, what they learned. And then maybe include your own research about that. So think of a question that you want to ask them, or something that was interesting about it that for you. So for example, if I wrote about this major hidden extinctions with birds, one topic that might pop up in my brain if I'm reading about it from another student is, well, are mammals undergoing the same type of extinction rates as the birds, or maybe reptiles? And I might look up some information on my own. So your response posts are research-based as well. Okay, so not just the initial post, but also the response post will be research-based. So I might need to, Google an article about perhaps mammalian extinction rates and see if they are trending the same as our bird extinction rates, and things like that. Okay, so add to your peer response. Don't just say, hey, good job, great to meet you. That's not really driving the discussion forward. But think about something that they stated, your peer stated in his or her post, and think of a response to that would drive the discussion forward. So in this case, perhaps something about extinction rates in general for other species or groups of animals and things like that. Okay, so I will be looking for your peer response to be at least 1 paragraph and includes research of your own. So you'll also have perhaps in-text citations and a reference at the bottom of where you got that information from. Now, when you're responding to a student, you don't want to just start your response with a paragraph. You want to address the student that you're responding to. So if the student that wrote the post's name is John, then you're going to say, hi, John, or hey, John, or thanks for posting that, John, and then write your response. Okay, so it should include introduction to the who you're responding to. So actually practice writing a response with the person's name included. You'll be surprised at how many students don't do that. So that is another thing that I look for in your peer responses. Okay, so once you've responded to 2 students, take a look at what other students have responded to your own. You don't have to respond to what other students have responded to your own if you don't want to. Okay, you're not graded on that, but sometimes you get some, something interesting that they learned about and shared with you, and you want to, respond to that. That's fine. Okay. So this discussion board with the initial posts and the 2 response posts are worth 30 points this week. Okay. In addition to your discussion board, you will be reading chapter 1 of your textbook. So reading chapter 1 is, luckily this chapter 1 is pretty straightforward. It's pretty easy. It's not very many pages long. So my suggestion is that you kind of first skim it. Okay, so take a look at the pictures that you see, the figures, read the headlines and things like that, just so you have an understanding of what the chapter will cover. Then go back and, read it just casually. You don't need to take notes while you're reading it or anything like that. So you're reading it a little bit more in depth. And then you're going to be taking the quiz. So the quiz is no time limit, and you're definitely allowed to use your textbook. So that's, it's open book, open resource. So when you go to start the quiz, have your textbook with you, and you can actually look up the answers as you go along, okay? Now, the reason why I'm, saying look up the answers while you go along is because these questions, they're going to ask you something that's pretty in-depth, okay? So something that is, very specific to the textbook. So it's always okay to have the textbook with you. And it will actually help you understand the information in the textbook. So use your textbook while you're taking your quiz. It'll actually get it in your mind a little bit better and make it stick. Now, once you've taken the quiz, if you do not get the 100%, in this case it's 5 out of 5, then take it again. So you do have 2 chances. Just realize that the second attempt will not have the same questions as the first attempt. So just be aware of that. Okay, so this is due by Sunday midnight. Okay, and then finally, this is an optional project, so you don't need to complete this if you don't want to. This is just something that kind of gets you outside and practicing the scientific method on your own. So you'll go into take a 15-minute walk in your backyard or a nearby park, or just look out the window if you have some natural landscape outside, and you're going to be observing the nature that surrounds you, and then think about a experiments, scientific method, and things like that. So once you've done that, then you're going to come up with an observation and related question, a hypothesis, and perhaps even an experiment. So here's an example. If you would like to share your experiment with people, you can go ahead and post that in the general the general questions. So that goes under, where is it? It's under the discussion boards, and the general questions, you can just post your information if you'd like. This is completely ungraded, so it's just if you'd like to share what you found. If you don't want to share, or if you don't even want to do it, that's fine as well. Okay. So, and that is it for module number 1. Okay, other than just reviewing the final project. So taking a look at that, and then if you have any questions about anything within the learning module, feel free to post them under the general questions category. Okay, so just to review, you have 2 things that are due this week. You have your discussion board post that is in 2 parts. Your initial post is due by Thursday Thursday midnight Eastern Standard Time, and then your follow-up 2 peer response posts are due by Sunday midnight. And then you also have a quiz. That quiz is due by Sunday midnight. Okay. If you have any questions at all, feel free to reach out in the discussion board post and post them as a general question if you think it's something that relates, same question that other students might have. If it's of a more personal nature, then go ahead and email me directly. All right, so good luck, and I can't wait to see which scientific research Science Daily articles you have chosen. So good good luck, and let me know if you have any questions.